off with our visual and audio intro here to our Chatechesis today. Father Eamonn with you. Thanks indeed for your company, and thank you for listening in and supporting and bringing blessings to our radio family here on Radio Maria. Time for our morning Chatechesis. Chat is always the operative word. We do like to interact with you. We do like to hear from you. And we do indeed hope you enjoy connecting in, texting in, emailing in, and sharing with us part of your faith journey as well. Please do. Or drop a comment, a like, and whichever, right here on our social media as well. And that's another way of just connecting in and being part of the conversation, the faith conversation. Like any family, you know, you get an update on the news, you sit around the table, hopefully, and meet at meal times. I wonder if that as common nowadays or not. Maybe COVID had helped us along a little bit, or back in that direction, that we might gather a bit more and sit around the table and talk more. One of the obstacles now I find sitting around tables or gathering to chat is the blessed phone. The mobile device, it tends to be ubiquitous, that is in your face and everywhere. I'm guilty myself, and you have it in your hand, and it's a constant distraction. And I wonder, it's trying to weigh up the pros and cons, the blessings or curses that it might be. And in social occasions, I strongly encourage putting away the phone. Let it not be a distraction. Maybe you need to get it out every now and again. But put it away. Engage with people in person and talk to one another. And you know how conversation sometimes too, it can be, let me show you the latest thing on the phone. And I find that a little bit distracting too, or somehow the quality, you see, of the exchange that we enjoy just by being in one another's presence, the bit of banter, the bit of crack, the bit of exchange, the bit of news that might come up, the question you might be inclined to ask. You know, all these things can kind of get waylaid or put to the side if it is that we have a mobile phone in our hands. These things are just such a distraction. They really are. Who was I reading recently? He's very erudite. John Waters. And if you ever come across John Waters, he has written, you know, volumes and has been a contributor to the secular media for a long time. But a book he wrote recently, he has a section there on the whole question of social media and these various devices. Of course, he himself endured a kind of crucifixion by social media for his particular stance and stands in defending fathers and fathers' rights and access to children. And he's been doing that for such a long time. And he dared to speak in a contrary way at the time of the same-sex marriage referendum, and sought to bring the conversation back to the children, and again the father's rights and the rights of children to parents, and all of that very controversial, unnecessarily so, I might say, issue, and just was quite run over by social media. So he has a lot of interesting things to say and interesting perspectives, and he is such a good writer. Might not always recommend what he has to say or the way he puts it at times. Not 100% endorsement here, but certainly a kind of a philosopher in his own way, and a deeper thinker of our times. And certainly he brings to light the weakness of our culture as a result of social media and digital technology, or at least the dangers of it, and how we've somehow succumbed to a lot of the either negative or bad formation, poor formation that comes through social media. And the big thing is being objective and understanding the sources of information and wondering how authentic they might be. So we really have to challenge everything that comes in at us through our devices and discern very, very carefully. That's not so easy for a young person to do, nor is it easy to do if it is that we don't have a solid grounding or a basis, particularly in faith, and in truth and in discernment can be difficult enough. We can so easily find ourselves led into and buying into negative information, or information that's simply only half true. And this is true of the spin that we often see put on some of the history of the church and some of the more recent historical events too. And we have to just be so careful to analyse every side of a particular situation, and quite true as well, I would suggest, of the war in the Ukraine. Again, that's not to take any side. That's certainly not way above my pay grade. It's nothing to do with. But you see, Pope Francis there is not issuing condemnations except condemnation of war and death, and offering all assistance possible to help bring that situation into peace, into negotiation, into reconciliation, allowing the Ukrainian people to return home. This is what's at stake, and doing certainly whatever the church can, and he's certainly leading that initiative to bring a help to the people who've just been displaced and their lives destroyed, and all the trauma that accompanies that, and to try to bring an end to the conflict and the unnecessary loss of life. This is the perennial task of the church. It never changes. It's always the way. If it's not the Ukraine, certainly it's Syria, and many hundreds of thousands have lost their lives in the conflict in Syria over the last decade or more. And again, Pope Francis there at the forefront, trying to remind us, and I hope the church too in many ways at the forefront. And so in terms of sources of more balanced or authentic information, I would certainly include among them the Vatican News, Aid to the Church in Need, as I was quoting for you yesterday, our own Bishops' Conference, and again just sifting through, there's many others of course, but sifting through and discerning carefully and keeping a balance and trying to keep an objective approach to it. So the social media, it's a great tool. It certainly does us great favours here, and we hope it's bringing blessings to you in the same way. But the cautionary note always, the flashing amber sign, to be extra careful. And indeed, I'm very open here to correction and to redirection if it is that somehow we're falling short or we're passing on any kind of misinformation. That would certainly not be our wish, our intention in any way, shape, size or form. And it's a task to be, again, extra careful and extra just vigilant that what is said from here is authentic and in keeping with the mind of the church and so on. That's a difficult thing to monitor and to keep an eye on, because again, with so many speakers, and there's bound to be one or two slip through from time to time, or something be misplaced, and otherwise sincerely so. That can happen, just as in any family too, and it demands then a little bit of correction, fraternal correction, and redirection, let's say, as well. So anyways, please do share with us, please do like, do comment, subscribe again, and help us on that path in our journey, and indeed keep listening and keep us honest, and keep pointing us in the right way as well. If you'd like to get in touch, the usual means, thanks to Chris who's downstairs. Who else was there? Jackie and Joan. Some lovely volunteers coming into the building today. Please do give a call on the telephone. We're here 014-123-456. And now the Hain Cahar, Hain Do 3 Cahar Cuig, Shea Cordlake, Oring, on telephone show big Foilta Road. +353 if you're in the north or outside of Ireland, 14123456 to make that phone call, to get in touch with us, to give us a little bit of feedback, any thoughts indeed, or concerns or questions, certainly your prayer intentions as well. And if you'd like to share some alms with us for Lent, that would be very gratefully appreciated and very much needed at this time too. So please do, and text and WhatsApp us as always on 089 467 2000, 089 467 2000, and that's the text and WhatsApp number. Will get to us immediately too. And if you want to write to us, very easy, St Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. Please do give us a shout. We're off to St. Mel's Cathedral this afternoon, please God, for a guided tour. Eamonn Brennan, I think, is the man who's due to take us around and show us the various elements of the cathedral. As you know, it was devastated by fire, but in 2009 and utterly destroyed. I don't know if you've seen any of those images. It's frightful to see the damage the fire did. And since then restored and rebuilt and reopened for services 5 years later for the Midnight Mass on Christmas Eve in 2014. And has become quite an attraction because there's some beautiful artwork there and just a beautiful ambiance, you might say, in the cathedral. They have adoration there, of course, during the day too. So it's in the heart of Longford town, named after St. Mel, the patron saint of the Diocese of Ardagh and Clonmacnoise. And for over a century and a half, it has dominated the skyline of Longford town and provided a focal point for the Catholic community. The original cathedral of the Diocese of Ardagh was in the village of Ardagh until the Reformation in the mid-1500s. And St. Mel's then was the brainchild of Bishop William O'Higgins. He served from 1829, Catholic Emancipation, very important year here in Ireland, to 1853. And the foundation stone was laid on the 19th of May 1840 in the presence of a crowd of up to 40,000 people. Absolutely wonderful faith. At a time, and this should really amaze us and cause us to wonder, the immense generosity of the Irish people in the mid-1800s when poverty was rife. The famine had done untold harm to our nation. A million people died and 1 million people emigrated. Ireland was much beleaguered in great suffering at that time. Our Lady appearing at Knock, of course, 1879, to bring consolation and comfort to her people here. So the number of churches and cathedrals that were built as soon as Catholic emancipation had delivered us of the terrible penal laws imposed upon us by the British occupation, that really set to flourishing not only in buildings but also in people and vocations and missionary activity, and a real resurgence in through, I suppose, the Industrial Revolution and a marvellous change wrought in Ireland during that century, the 19th century. 40,000 people turned up for the laying of the foundation stone. That's an enormous crowd. So blessed and thrilled were the people with the gift of a cathedral. So it was completed in phases, naturally. Cathedrals are so massive, they take lifetimes to build. It took 53 years to build it. But tremendous support for the project, with even the children of the diocese contributing money towards the statue of the Sacred Heart located in the front of the cathedral. We'll take a camera with us and we'll do a bit of filming and we'll do a bit of recording. And we hope to be able to tell that story for you and share it with you. It's a lovely initiative. Dermot McGrath had the idea, I think, following his visit to the relics and the burial place of Saints Patrick, Bridget and Columkill in Downpatrick. And I think it's a lovely idea, and it's something I'd like to see grow for Radio Maria, a little Radio Maria pilgrimage hither and yon. A couple of other places actually have been suggested, Holy Cross perhaps, Clonmacnoise. There's any number of Glendalough, all within reach. And please God, we'll just invest a bit of thought into that, and it'll be lovely to have some little trip out regularly from Radio Maria, and then to share it with you. And that everybody can come because you'll be able to join us, so to speak, online and see back and enjoy the trip. So during the repair works of 2012, a chamber with the statue of the Sacred Heart was discovered, containing a list of the names of all the children who gave donations for that statue. We're now getting the rest of that story when we visit. Bishop O'Higgins apparently was a marvellous man, the man who initiated the building of the cathedral, strongly influenced by his travels in Europe, and he drew inspiration from grand neoclassical churches such as the Magdalene Church in Paris and St. John Lateran's in Rome. So it was John Benjamin Keane, the architect, who provided the original plans for the cathedral and saw it to completion. George Ashland, of course, a famous architect and son-in-law of the great Victorian architect Puget, he was commissioned to complete the front of the cathedral. I think it was Ashland who was involved in Cove Cathedral, if I'm not mistaken, but certainly it's a sort of Puget, that Gothic design is not uncommon around Ireland. Puget and Ashland having great influence indeed in their architecture on these great edifices in honour of the Lord. And a symbol, as it says there on the skyline, a symbol to faith, and that faith's still here, thanks be to God. And these buildings should give us courage to see that, look, our forefathers sacrificed immensely for the faith, and with great joy and thanksgiving to build up the faith in their community. So again, that's why I'm keen on this idea of travelling around and sharing some of this local history of our faith with you. These are tremendous heritages which should embolden us in our faith today and encourage us to bear witness in the very same way, despite the problems and the struggles and the oppositions like Jeremiah in the reading this morning. It's going to come. We're going to face some element of rejection and opposition. But these great, wonderful buildings, which so many of them indeed are part of our heritage and preserved, and respected and used, again, in the light of, all that has gone before. So the interior is decorated by an arcade of 24 monumental and finely detailed Ionic columns, which encloses the nave of the cathedral in a cruciform shape, as is often the case with churches and cathedrals particularly, and always in cathedrals endowed with beautiful organ to share and uplift the congregation in music, and very often too high quality of music and choral activity going on as well. So because the cathedral was redone so recently, they were able to think through naturally the lighting, the heating, and all the electronic aspects too, and then to beautify the beautiful stained glass windows, the Harry Clark studio windows there, which decorate the cathedral too. So very good. Extraordinary that, it was Christmas morning 2009 when the fire broke out and devastated the cathedral, but in 5 years then the huge program of repair and restoration completed. Wonderful testimony again to the bishop, the local clergy, and the local people, and the people of the diocese, no doubt, who rallied to rebuild that cathedral. Anyway, so that's our trip this afternoon. I'm not sure how many are coming, if there's a limit on numbers, but if you're in the vicinity, we'll be heading into the cathedral. Please God, around 3 o'clock we'll be meeting outside and going in and taking a little trip around and staying for a prayer, of course, as well. Maybe a little time of adoration would be appropriate as well. So very good. Saint Mel, he's feast day around the 7th of February, so just last month, and he came to Ireland with St. Patrick and worked with him until he was ordained in Ardagh. He's one of the earliest Irish saints and is said to have given the veil to St. Bridget, who is a patron of the Diocese of Ardagh and Clonmacnoise, St. Mel there. So he was from Britain, a companion and relative, possibly a nephew of St. Patrick, it says here. He may have been the son of Conis and St. Patrick's sister Darerca. St. Darerca was known as the mother of saints because most of her children entered religious life. Some were later recognised as saints and some became bishops. Mel and his brother Melchu, Winish and Riach accompanied their uncle Patrick to Ireland and helped him with his missionary work there. After St. Patrick built the church at Ardagh, he appointed Mel as Bishop of Ardagh. Now that's information I did not know, the connection with Mel and St. Patrick, and it seems quite natural that indeed he would invite, or his family would be interested in coming along with him. So isn't that interesting? It's British missionaries. Father Billy Swan was chatting about this a bit earlier, who brought the faith to Ireland. And as we know, St. Patrick came as a slave and would have learnt the Irish language. And a curious thought, he may well have spoken Irish with an English accent. Go figure that one out. I know a bishop and a priest from Ireland who left to go to England and developed very refined English accents. And I've heard them. They've come home to Ireland to celebrate Mass or join in pilgrimage. The lovely English accent, but speaking Irish, and it's sort of, there's something, it's kind of misshapen or something very sort of unusual about it that's striking. So they are Father a Tornav, good name for Denham. You know, if you can imagine it in an English accent, it's difficult to, but it's fascinating to hear, and always makes me smile. So we can imagine St. Patrick spoke Irish, as he did indeed, with an English accent. Keep an eye out for the lovely video that Nuria has prepared. I'm not sure if it's gone up yet on our Facebook page. I'm pretty sure it will go up today, if not tomorrow. Summarising our visit to Downpatrick and the life of St. Patrick. And indeed, that's one of the things that Father McCluskey told us at the grave of the relics there of the three saints in Downpatrick, that when St. Patrick returned, he greeted one of the local chieftains in the native tongue. So Diarit was his expression, God be with you, but he must have no doubt said it with an English accent. Like, I can't even begin to know how to pronounce that with an English accent. So this struck the chieftain and opened his heart indeed to hearing the gospel message. So isn't it interesting then that through St. Mel and his family related to St. Patrick, that again, British missionaries, that the faith has come to Ireland. Let's keep that in mind and allow that to exercise our thoughts for a little bit. So, according to the memoir of Tirachan and the tripartite life, these are obviously historical documents, St. Patrick came to Ardagh in Longford, where he established a church. And Mel, however, seems to have worked from there as a travelling missionary and evangelist. So the connection to St. Patrick there in Ardagh and Clonmacnoise. Again, St. Mel, and rather than St. Patrick, gave Bridget the veil, according to the Lower Brack. And it says that he pronounced the rite of ordination of a bishop over her. Now again, I'm a little bit, how a bishop could make that mistake or not, that seems a little bit unusual. At any rate, when his companion MacHale protested, Mel insisted it was the work of God's providence. Well, in a way, no doubt, anointing Bridget for the great work and witness that was to follow, not through any kind of sense of being in breach of rubrics or the church teaching or anything, I'm sure. So, just to read the history. So Ardagh, probably at first a monastic institution, was recognised as a diocese at the Synod of Kells in 1152, and a dispute arose as to whether it was a suffragan to Tuam or to Armagh, because it kind of sits in between the two archdioceses. And this was resolved in 1235 in favour of Armagh. Clonmacnoise was also a monastic institution until the Synod of Kells. It became a small diocese. It was at first attached to Meath, but since 1756 has been linked with Ardagh. So very good. We that's another place well worthy of a visit, Clonmacnoise. So we must keep that on our list of any number of beautiful places worthy of visit. It's a lovely visit to Westport now again. I'd love to go back again and get to meet some of the wonderful people we met. Sure, everywhere we've gone, Downpatrick was another fabulous visit too. So we're getting to see and know the country a little bit, and just sharing it with you as well as part of our journey here on Radio Maria, because this is our great heritage, this is our great family, this is our great treasure that we have. Now I'm going to pause for a little piece of music. This one I know is a favourite of Ulrika's, so playing this one for Ulrika today. Mark Forrest, Make My Heart a Dwelling Place. So please do text in 089 467 2000. Please do email in info@radiomaria.ie. And we have plenty of help in the studio today. If you want to give a call, 014 123 456 014 123 456. So please do get in touch with us. Please do be part of the conversation here today. So thanks, Aidan. We'll be back after this.
Make my heart your dwelling place, a temple just for you, a consecrated resting place, a vessel ever true. Make my heart a fire with the brightness of your sun. Make my heart a dwelling place for the Holy One. Make my heart your dwelling place, a temple just for you, a consecrated resting place, a vessel ever true. Make my heart a fire with the brightness of your sun. Make my heart a dwelling place for the Holy One. Make my heart a dwelling place for the Holy One.
Hi, this is Dominic McCorian. Please join me for Music to Your Heart on Wednesday afternoons from 4 to 5 p.m. I'll be playing music from a variety of genres: classical, pop, Celtic and sacred. I'd love to hear from you, so if you send in your requests, I'll play your favourites for you and we'll put together a fabulous show, only here on Radio Maria Ireland.
There you are, joined Dominic a little bit later, a fabulous singer in his own right, a tenor. And I think he joins in every now and again, and he, while the music's on air, sometimes he's belting out and joining in with it himself in the studio, and it reverberates around the building here. He's a colossal voice. So do please text in again if you have any music requests for Dominic. Dermot, the same. It's just nice that you can get involved and you can be part of the selection of music. Our hope and ambition here always, however, is that our music would be very enriching and uplifting and different from that of secular, not just popular or secular per se. We're not entirely adverse to that either, but that music would be soothing to the soul and yet uplifting to the soul, as again so much music is. So if you'd like to have us play some selection of music, think in those terms, in those lines, of what other listeners might like to hear or would appreciate or would be uplifting in their faith as well. So certainly that's true of Mark Forrest there, and indeed, that goes out to Ulrika today. Thanks for getting in touch. She wants me just to mention the good news about the consecration of Ukraine and Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Aidan has just printed that out for me here as well. And just a big thanks to everybody who's watching in. Thanks to Dennis Fitzgerald, Ballymcgilligot there, down in the kingdom of Kerry. Kerry won the match the other day. I was up in Mayo, of course, Saturday evening, and our lovely host and hostess, Tom and Anne. Tom was engrossed in the match, and it was a good second half. I believe that Mayo pulled back a couple of the points they were behind, but unfortunately Kerry won the day. So what can we do? They're always a superior football team or so often at any rate. So thanks, Dennis, and greetings to all our dear friends in Kerry today as well. Vincent and Janine are also watching in here on Facebook too, and thanks indeed. Lovely to have your presence with us here today. For anyone in County Kerry, Dennis says the 2nd of April on Saturday in the Square at 1 p.m. there will be a public rosary there. And a message came through from Father Marius as well, just encouraging rosaries at the grottos this year. I think for the month of May. I'll dig that out again. And no doubt he'll mention it on his own Rosary Stories show and breakfast show as well. So keep an ear out and an eye out for all those things. We certainly endorse and approve of all of that. Our own adoration has recommenced again, Wednesdays through Saturdays for now. We're finding that a little bit more manageable, I must say. And it is lovely to have visitors to the studio. We welcome all who come and share and spend a little bit of time here. So that's something you might like to consider to make your own little pilgrimage here. We're setting aside a Saturday morning particularly for anyone who might like to come as a group to visit the radio. So maybe you might like to consider that as we roll onwards through spring into summer. Might be a lovely excursion. Make it a day out to Dublin if you wish, and double up and go somewhere else in the afternoon, or as you wish. But certainly do come and visit us here at the studio, say for 10 o'clock Mass. You might like to stay on for a little adoration. Join us at the microphone for prayer or the lunchtime rosary too. And certainly get a look around and see what's happening and what goes on here at Radio Maria. And meet a few of the faces behind the voices too. So keep that in mind if you would like to visit. But give a call, give us a ring in, and we'll make sure we're organised so that we're not overloading the place and that we're able to manage indeed as you come and visit. So please do consider that. And of course we welcome individuals who pop in to pay us a visit too. It's always good to know that you're coming as well. But if it is you'd like to sign up for the adoration again, feel free, let us know. Usual contact details there as well. Now, thanks, Carmel. She says, great to hear, to listen to Radio Maria, and to hear about the history of St. Mel's and the diocese too. I've been collecting, actually, would you call them annuals? I suppose you wouldn't. You know these, like the Guinness Book of Records, that type of, what I have in mind is kind of hard-backed books of the history of dioceses. As we've gone around and visited, I've a nice little collection growing on my shelf there with lovely, lovely pictures. I shared the one of Elphin with you there not so long ago, and we've been picking up these as we've gone along, and they're just a great little collection of the history of the churches, and a nice pictorial representation as well to have on the shelf. Very useful indeed. Bernadette from Knock, she rang in just with a question. Did St. Patrick found the first monastic settlement in Ireland, and was it in Clonmacnoise? Now, I have no idea. Again, I'm a little bit vague on the story of Clonmacnoise. I know it's a very beautiful place to visit. I haven't been yet myself, but we must do a bit of research, and in fact that's a question, Bernadette, I can bring to our tour guide this afternoon and test his knowledge in relation to St. Patrick and Clonmacnoise, because that's the diocese, of course, that we'll be in this afternoon. We'll see if we can get an answer for that for you tomorrow as well. Thanks, Vincent, for your voice message. Always good to hear from you. Looking for prayers for tomorrow, I suppose, especially that Ireland, and I suppose the celebrations that accompany St. Patrick will be oriented and based upon faith and the gift of faith more than the secular. Well, we know that the secular is encroaching upon all of these feast days, Christmas, Easter, All Saints. They tend to be bullied around a little bit by secular influence and by those who seek to profit from them. But here, Radio Maria will certainly play our part, Vincent, to celebrate the great gift, and we're already doing it, really, of St. Patrick and the faith that means so much to us. So we'll play our part gallantly, and we encourage indeed all of you to bear witness to St. Patrick, to wear the shamrock, again, connect to the feast day, get to Holy Mass, of course. And we have two bank holidays running in together. Isn't it amazing this year? St. Bridget, this is the first time they're introducing a bank holiday for St. Bridget's Day too. But they very conveniently put it in for Friday, so that we have a 4-day break there to be able to take a breather from work. And I think that's whoever had that idea, there was a bit of genius going on there, so that indeed would be a great boost to people's morale. A little bit of a nice midterm break kind of feel to it, and I suppose now a sort of a post-COVID opportunity to get out and about a bit more. Even though somebody was telling me that there seems to be an upsurge in the virus. Now, whatever I had myself last week, the week before, I think it may have been a flu, but I did test positive on the antigen thing. Again, I'm not sure exactly what that's an indication of. I know I was sick. So there are bugs going around, and just be mindful and be sensible and be careful. And if it's necessary to isolate for a few days, it seems to be a very wise thing to do to safeguard one another. So very good, great. Keep those prayer intentions and those lovely texts and messages flowing into us here. We always glad to hear from you, and thanks indeed for your alms giving to us as well. Henry there, I just see, was in touch and made a little offering there. So thank you for that, Henry, and for all indeed who do help us to build and grow. I think there's a second one here as well. Deirdre was in touch as well. Thanks for that, Deirdre, and appreciate that very, very much. Every little gift, it doesn't matter how small, but very, very much needed, I can't tell you. But very gratefully received and put to immediate use. Immediate use. I see John has just sent me in there a little email from RTE. They assess and charge us for our presence on air according to the data, the bit rate. And interesting to see that for television, the data rate and the data transfer is up in the millions of bits or data, whatever, bytes or bits, whatever they have, gigabits. Whereas we're somewhere down around 94,000, I think. I know that per day or per year, I forget the exact, but we're at a much lower bit rate, the lowest in fact of the whole list that was sent through. So that kind of helps just paring our costs way back. I know for television, certainly the data rate is enormous because it's visual material, whereas it is mono audio. So it's pretty much bottom of the scale. So trying to keep things as cheap and as reasonable as possible. Now the Holy Father is going to consecrate Russia and the Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary during the celebration of penance on the 25th of March in St. Peter's Basilica. And that's the Annunciation, of course. And it was in the apparition of the 13th of July in 1917, Our Lady had asked for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart, stating that if this request were not granted, Russia would spread its errors throughout the world, promoting wars and persecution of the Church. The good will be martyred, Our Lady said. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be destroyed. Now we've seen elements of that certainly over the century since Fatima. The consecration took place in 1984. Pope St. John Paul II, of course, after his assassination attempt, brought attention to that as well. But that doesn't mean there should be only one act of consecration. It makes perfect sense indeed that we should be always seeking to dedicate and consecrate ourselves to Jesus through Mary. So we'll have a little bit more on that in the coming days, certainly. And I encourage and recommend and strongly invite all of you to participate in that act of consecration yourself, to an act of entrustment, to allow Our Lady to step in and intervene and lead us to peace, lead us to communion and unity. So I might share a little bit more about that too in the coming days, and we look forward to it, as indeed each of the Radio Maria stations and the Legion of Mary throughout the world, always on the 25th of March, makes that renewal and consecration to Jesus through Mary. So it should be a beautiful, grace-filled moment indeed. And if we can unite ourselves in that, I think it cannot but bring great blessings from heaven. Good. My time has been taken away from me. It's all over. 12 o'clock, another Chatechesis done and dusted. You can listen back to the repeat later on, or hear it as a podcast if you wish as well. And thank you for your company. Please stay with me now. We're